There is an ancient system that can break any addiction, dissolve any bad habit, and slowly rebuild your life from the inside out. It is not Japanese, it is not modern, and it does not care about hacks or quick results. It began with a strange man who walked through Athens asking only questions, Socrates. If you have ever tried to change and failed, you already know this. Motivation is loud, but fragile. You watch a video, you feel inspired, you declare, from tomorrow, everything changes, and for 2 days, you are a new person. Then the old gravity pulls you back. Socrates would say the problem is not that you are weak, but that you are confused. You want two opposite things at the same time. You want health and comfort, focus and distraction, long-term respect and short-term relief. Inside you, two different images of the good life are fighting, and your habits simply reveal which one is truly winning. The Japanese idea of Kaizen talks about getting 1% better every day. Socrates was doing this long before it had a name. His entire life was a daily practice of examining himself, asking, is this thought true? Is this action worthy of the person I want to become? That is the real 1% improvement, becoming a little more honest, a little more awake, each day. In this video, we are going to build a complete system to break bad habits using Socrates and the Stoic philosophers. We will talk about your true purpose, about discipline, about accepting imperfection, and about how to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. This is not a feel-good speech. It is training for the soul. If you stay with me until the end and actually apply this, your life will not transform overnight. But in 6 months, in a year, you will look back and realize something shocking. The old you simply does not exist anymore. Not because of one huge decision, but because of 1,000 small, almost invisible choices. Socrates believed something radical. No one does wrong on purpose. When we choose what harms us, it is not because we love pain, but because we are mistaken about what is really good. You do not binge on junk food or scroll for hours because you want an empty life. In that moment, your mind quietly whispers, this will help. This will calm me. This is what I need right now. And you believe it. So you try to change your habits with sheer willpower. You declare war on yourself. No more sugar, no more social media, no more excuses. For a few days, you hold your breath and fight. But inside, nothing has been examined. The belief that comfort equals safety, that escape equals relief, that you deserve a break is still there. Eventually, willpower gets tired, the old belief speaks up, and you go back. The Stoics, following the spirit of Socrates, said that the real problem is not the habit itself, but the judgment behind it. You think, I had a stressful day, so I must relax with this. Or, I failed once, so I'm a failure anyway. These are not facts. They are unchallenged thoughts. Socratic change begins with a different approach. Before you try to be stronger, try to be clearer. Take one habit you hate and ask, like Socrates would, what do I secretly believe this gives me? Comfort, connection, numbness? Then ask, is that actually true in the long run? Most people never do this. They try to build a new life on top of old lies. That is why every new routine collapses. We will not do that. First, we will uncover the lies. Then, slowly and patiently, we will replace them with something truer, something that can actually support a new way of living. This is the first real act of courage in philosophy. To admit that maybe you have been wrong about what helps you, wrong about what you need, and that your bad habits are not monsters attacking you from outside, but stories you have been repeating to yourself for years. When people hear Kaizen, they think of factories and productivity. But beneath that is a simple truth. Big change is just small change, repeated. Socrates did not have spreadsheets or habit trackers. His tool was the daily conversation with himself. Every day he practiced getting a little closer to the truth. The Stoics turned this into a discipline. They said, every day, do small exercises that train your character, the way an athlete trains muscles. Not heroic, Instagram-worthy actions. Quiet, almost boring actions. Saying no once when you would usually say yes. Getting out of bed when you would normally hit snooze. Closing one more tab instead of opening another. Here is how to practice Socratic Kaizen. First, choose one habit you want to attack. Then reduce your first step until it is almost ridiculous. If you procrastinate for hours, your first step might be work for 2 focused minutes. If you binge eat, your first step might be pause for 1 deep breath before the next bite. If you are glued to your phone, your first step might be put it face down for 5 minutes. Socrates would ask a brutal question. Can you honestly say you cannot do this? If you still feel resistance, the step is too big. Shrink it again. The goal is not to impress your ego. The goal is to prove to yourself, day after day, I am capable of acting differently. Every tiny action is a vote for a new identity. 1 less scroll, 1 conscious bite, 1 honest minute of work. On any single day, it looks like nothing. But the soul is keeping score. Over months, those tiny, almost invisible votes add up to a person you barely recognize. You will not feel fireworks. You will often feel silly. That is perfect. Philosophy is not about feeling powerful. It is about becoming reliable. The old you chased dramatic change and burned out. The new you will master the art of gentle, relentless, almost boring improvement. The Japanese speak of ikigai, the reason to get out of bed. Socrates and the Stoics spoke of telos, the ultimate aim of a life. If your only goal is look better or be more productive, your will collapses the moment things get hard. Those goals are too shallow to carry real sacrifice. Socrates believed a good life is one where your actions are guided by a clear understanding of what kind of person you want to be, not what you want to own, not how you want to look, but what sort of soul you are building. The Stoics called this living according to nature, meaning becoming the most honest, courageous, just version of yourself. Take the bad habits you want to change and place it in this larger frame. Ask yourself, if I continue this habit for 5 more years, what kind of person am I becoming? Not just what happens to my body or bank account, but what happens to my character. Do I become unreliable, cowardly, self-absorbed, numb? Then reverse the question, who do I deeply want to be instead? A present parent, a loyal friend, a disciplined creator, someone whose word means something. Write 1 simple sentence that connects your habit to your telos. I want to break this habit because it keeps me from becoming someone who... This sentence is more powerful than any motivational quote. It turns your diet, your screen time, your schedule into spiritual training. You are no longer just quitting sugar or using less TikTok. You are saying yes to a different self. When temptation comes, you are not only fighting a craving, you are protecting the future person you are trying to become. Shallow reasons collapse in the face of stress. Deep reasons endure. When your telos is clear, Sacrifice starts to feel less like punishment and more like alignment. You are finally walking in the direction of who you know you were meant to be. In Okinawa, people speak of eating until 80% full. The Greeks had their own word for this spirit, sophrosin, usually translated as moderation or self-control. For Socrates and the Stoics, this was not about being skinny. It was about being free. A person ruled by appetite is not truly free. If every stress sends you to the fridge, every boredom to your phone, every discomfort to a drink or a website, then your life is being steered by impulse, not by reason. Socrates compared this to a city ruled by a noisy crowd instead of a wise council. The Stoic approach is surprisingly gentle. They did not say, crush your desires. They said, put them under good leadership. When you eat, you ask, what amount truly serves my body and my purpose? When you rest, you ask, what amount truly restores me instead of numbing me? Pick one area where your body leads and your mind follows. It might be food or late-night scrolling or pornography or endless entertainment. Your first goal is not total abstinence forever. Your first goal is to reintroduce choice. Instead of acting automatically, create one small pause before you obey the impulse. In that pause, ask a Socratic question. What do I think this will give me, and is that actually true? Then choose a response slightly more moderate than usual. One less episode, one smaller portion, 10 minutes less online. These are not punishments. They are quiet declarations. I will be the one who decides how I live, not my cravings. Over time, your nervous system learns a new pattern. Desire rises. You notice it. You question it. You steer it. That is freedom in slow motion. You are not rejecting pleasure. You are refusing to be owned by it. This is the Stoic hara hachi bu, leaving a space between stimulus and response where your character can breathe. If you try to change from pride, you will quit the first time you slip. The ego wants a perfect record. Philosophy wants an honest record. Socrates never claimed to be wise. He only claimed to know that he did not know. That humility is exactly what you need when you are breaking a bad habit. You will binge again. You will scroll again. You will waste a day. The question is not, will I fall? The question is, what story will I tell when I fall? The old story says, see, I am hopeless. This is who I really am. The Stoic story says, I have discovered a weak point. Good. Now I know where to train. The Stoics divided life into two categories. What is in our control and what is not. The past is not in your control. The slip that already happened is not in your control. What is in your control is the response you choose in the next moment. So when you stumble, practice 3 steps. First, admit it without drama. I overate. I procrastinated. I escaped. Second, examine it like a curious philosopher. What was I feeling? What did I believe this would give me? Third, design a tiny adjustment for next time. Remove one trigger, shorten one temptation, prepare one sentence you will tell yourself. In this way, every failure becomes a piece of data, not a verdict on your value. You are not dirty glass that must be smashed when it is scratched. You are a work in progress being polished through contact with the world. Imperfection is not the end of the path. It is how the path feels under your feet. If you can learn to say, I fell, but I am still walking, you have already escaped the trap that keeps most people stuck. They worship an imaginary perfect self and hate the real clumsy self that is actually capable of growth. Philosophy invites you to do the opposite. Respect the one who keeps getting up. Anyone can be disciplined when they feel inspired. The real test is what you do when you are tired, disappointed, or bored. Socrates trained his courage not in speeches, but in how he faced cold, hunger, ridicule, and finally death itself. The Stoics followed him. They saw every hard day as a chance to practice strength. They used a word, proheresis, to describe the inner power of choice that nothing can touch. Your schedule can change, your energy can drop, your mood can collapse, but there is still a tiny space where you decide, will I take the next right step, or will I surrender to the old pattern? On difficult days, your goal is not to be excellent. Your goal is simply not to break the chain. If you plan to exercise for 20 minutes and you feel awful, do 2 minutes. If you plan to read 10 pages and you are exhausted, read 1. These tiny acts of stubbornness are worth more than your best days because they prove that your habits are no longer slaves of your emotions. The Stoics even practiced voluntary discomfort, taking cold baths, eating simple food, sleeping on hard surfaces from time to time just to prove to themselves, I can live with less than I think. You do not have to copy these exact practices, but you can borrow the spirit. When life feels heavy, quietly remind yourself, I can carry this. I have chosen this training every time you endure a craving without obeying it. Every time you take one small step while your mind screams to quit, you are carving a new groove in your character. You are becoming the kind of person who can be trusted, especially by yourself. That is the real reward of perseverance, not a perfect body or a perfect resume, but a self you no longer have to run away from. Let us put everything together into a clear path you can follow. You can use this for overeating, procrastination, digital addiction, almost anything that pulls you away from your better self. Step 1. Name the habit and write your Telos sentence. I want to stop because it keeps me from becoming someone who hard. Read this every morning. You are reminding yourself that this is not a cosmetic project. It is a moral one. Step 2. Do a short Socratic investigation. For 1 week, do not even try to change the habit. Simply observe it. Each time it happens afterward, write, what was I feeling? What did I tell myself? What did I hope this would solve? At the end of the week, you will see patterns. These are the hidden beliefs that drive your behavior. Step 3. Design your tiny practice. Choose one small interruption, a 2-minute work block, one conscious breath before eating, 5 minutes without your phone after you wake up. It must be so easy that you would feel almost embarrassed to say you cannot do it. Step 4. Practice daily reflection. Each evening, ask 3 questions. Where did I act according to my telos today? Where did I drift? What is one small adjustment I can test tomorrow? This is your daily Kaizen, but focused on wisdom and character, not just productivity. Step 5. Prepare for failure in advance. Decide now how you will respond when you slip. You will admit it calmly, examine it, and design one adjustment. No self-insults, no dramatic promises, just a return to the path. If you follow these 5 steps for 3 months, you will not feel like a superhero. You will feel like a beginner who has finally stopped lying to themselves. But the numbers will quietly shift. Fewer binges, shorter distractions, more days where you actually do what you said you would. That is what real transformation looks like from the inside. Not fireworks, but a slow, almost boring rearrangement of who you are. We began with a promise. There is a system that can break any bad habit, and you might not even notice it working at first. Now you have seen it. It is not mystical. It is the same path Socrates walked in the streets of Athens and the Stoics practiced in their notebooks and barracks and bedrooms. First, they questioned their beliefs instead of blindly obeying them. Then they aimed their life at a clear telos, a vision of the kind of person they wanted to become. They practiced tiny daily acts of self-mastery, trained moderation in body and mind, turned their failures into lessons, and endured hard days with quiet stubbornness. This is not a 21-day challenge. It is a way of living. If you truly adopt it, 6 months from now, you will still have weaknesses, but they will be different weaknesses, smaller ones. A year from now, people around you may say, "You've changed," and you may struggle to point to one single event that did it. It will be the accumulation of thousands of tiny, honest moments. If you are waiting for motivation, stop. Socrates did not wait to feel brave before he spoke the truth. The Stoics did not wait to feel strong before they trained. Start with the smallest step you cannot reasonably refuse. Ask one honest question. Make one tiny adjustment. Keep one simple promise to yourself today. If this system resonates with you, do not just nod and move on to the next video. Take 5 minutes after this ends. Write your telos sentence. Choose your first tiny practice. Tonight, do your first reflection. That is how philosophy leaves the screen and enters your life. And that is how, without drama, you quietly become someone you are finally proud to be. The Japanese call it Kaizen. The West remembers it as the examined life. 2 names for the same slow miracle, a human being who refuses to stay asleep. That can be you, starting now, not by changing everything at once, but by changing this one moment and then the next. Let's make this painfully real and practical. Take procrastination, one of the most common habits that quietly ruins lives. You have work to do, a project, a dream, and instead you delay again and again. How do you apply everything we have talked about? First, the Socratic investigation. For a few days, instead of attacking yourself, simply observe. Each time you procrastinate, write down what was happening. What were you about to do? What did you feel in your body? What thought crossed your mind right before you opened another tab or checked your phone? You might discover patterns like, "This task feels too big," or "If I try, I might fail," or "I have time later." These are not random. They are beliefs. Socrates would sit with you and ask, one by one, is that true? Is it really too big? Or are you looking at the whole mountain instead of the next step? Is it really safer to delay and live with constant anxiety than to risk imperfect action? Is later actually real? Or is it just a way to feel comfortable right now? The point is not to shame you, but to expose how irrational the habit really is when you shine light on it. Then comes the tiny practice. Choose one important task and promise yourself only 5 minutes of focused work. Not 50, just 5. When the time comes, your mind will still resist, but the demand is now so small that it becomes difficult to justify refusal. You say, "I can endure 5 minutes." At the end, you are free to stop. Often you will continue, but even if you do not, you have still cast a vote for a new identity. I am someone who starts, even when I don't feel like it. Each evening, reflect, did I honor my 5 minutes? If yes, notice how little it actually cost you. If no, do not call yourself lazy. Ask what thoughts seduced you away and plan one adjustment. Maybe you remove your phone from the room. Maybe you choose the 5 minutes earlier in the day before you are drained. Slowly, the old belief, "I can't work unless I feel ready," is replaced with a new one. I am capable of beginning even when I don't feel ready. That is Socratic philosophy entering your bloodstream. Now let's look at digital addiction. Endless scrolling, checking notifications every few minutes, losing hours you never meant to spend. Here again, the goal is not to despise technology, but to reclaim your power of choice. Begin with honest observation. For a few days, every time you unlock your phone without a clear purpose, just notice it. Do not even try to stop yet. Ask yourself afterward, what was I feeling? Boredom, loneliness, anxiety, restlessness? What did I hope the screen would give me? Distraction, connection, a hit of novelty? Socrates would ask, does it truly give you that, or only for a few seconds? After 10, 20, 40 minutes of scrolling, do you feel lighter or duller, more alive or more hollow? The habit survives on the unexamined assumption that this helps. Your job is to see the cost clearly enough that the spell begins to weaken. Then design a micro-practice. For example, each time you feel the urge to check your phone, pause for one deep breath and ask, what am I actually looking for? If the answer is nothing, I'm just escaping. Put the phone down for 2 minutes before deciding again. You are not banning the phone. You are placing reason back in the chain. You can also create small constraints that honor your telos. Maybe no phone in the first 15 minutes after waking. Maybe no phone at the table while eating. Maybe one time block in the day that is deliberately screen-free. These are not rigid rules handed down from outside. They are promises you make to the person you want to become, someone who can be fully present with work, with others, with their own thoughts. Each successful pause strengthens the sense that you, not the device, are in charge. Each failure is a chance to observe more closely what emotion drives you back. Over weeks, the constant itch to check begins to quiet. It does not disappear, but it loses its authority. You start to remember what it feels like to inhabit your own mind without constant stimulation. That silence can be frightening at first. Stay with it. It is in that quiet that philosophy has room to speak. Everything we have talked about will fade if it remains only as ideas. Socrates did not write books. He lived in conversation day after day. The Stoics wrote their thoughts not to publish them, but to remind themselves how to live when the day's noise tried to make them forget. You need similar anchors. Create a simple morning ritual. It might be 3 minutes of reading a short passage from a philosopher, then rewriting your Telos sentence by hand, and then choosing your one tiny practice for the day. Ask yourself, in what situation today am I most likely to fall back into my old habit? Visualize it for a moment and imagine yourself taking the new small action instead. You are rehearsing virtue in advance. Then, create an evening ritual. Before sleep, ask 3 questions. Where did I act as the person I want to be? Where did I drift? And what is one small change I will try tomorrow? Do not write essays. A few sentences are enough. The point is not to judge yourself, but to stay in conversation with yourself the way Socrates stayed in conversation with others. Over months, these 2 simple rituals become the frame around your day. No matter how chaotic the hours in between, you begin and end with self-examination. This is the examined life in practice, not sitting on a mountain thinking lofty thoughts, but checking gently and regularly whether your actions are aligned with your deepest understanding of the good. There will be days when you miss the ritual. When you notice, simply return. Philosophy is not offended. The voice of wisdom is patient, but it will not shout over endless distraction. You must keep inviting it in. These few minutes, morning and night, are your invitation. To end, I want to leave you not with a slogan, but with a small Socratic dialogue you can repeat whenever you feel stuck in a bad habit. Imagine the wiser part of you, influenced by Socrates and the Stoics, asking questions of the part of you that wants comfort and escape. First question: what am I about to do? Say it clearly. I am about to eat when I'm not hungry, or I am about to delay my work, or I am about to disappear into my screen. Naming the action breaks its invisibility. Second question: what do I believe this will give me right now? Answer honestly, even if it sounds childish. Relief, distraction, pleasure, numbness. There is no shame in the answer, only clarity. Third question: is that truly what it gives me, or does it also bring something else? Here you remember the aftertaste: regret, heaviness, anxiety, lost time. You see the full picture instead of the first sweet frame. Fourth question: who am I becoming if I continue to choose this day after day? Let the image appear, a more tired, more scattered, more frustrated version of you, not to scare yourself, but to be honest about the trajectory. Fifth question: is there one smaller, wiser action I could take instead, right now? Not a grand gesture, just a tiny step in the direction of your telos. One breath, one pause, 1 minute of effort, one act of moderation. This inner dialogue may take only 30 seconds, but it contains the whole spirit of Socratic and Stoic practice. It replaces automatic reaction with conscious choice. It treats you not as a machine to be hacked, but as a soul to be educated. If you make a habit of this conversation, you will still fail, you will still forget, you will still be human, but little by little, you will notice something changing. The gap between temptation and action becomes wider. The voice of wisdom becomes louder, and the person you wanted to be stops being a fantasy and starts being the one who is actually making your choices. That is the quiet revolution this philosophy offers. Not miracles, not instant transformation, but a life in which you know what you are doing and why you are doing it. A life in which your habits no longer drag you away from yourself, but slowly, faithfully, bring you closer to the person you were meant to become. If you've watched this far, you're already different from most people. You're actually interested in examining your life, not just escaping it. If this helped you, take 1 minute now to write your Telos sentence and choose your first tiny practice. Don't just click away. And if you want more videos where we take ancient philosophy and turn it into real practical systems for your life, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Until then, remember Socrates' words: the unexamined life is not worth living. But you've already started examining yours. Keep going.